With Rochester Castle and Rochester Cathedral in the background, we join Medway Queen at Strood Pier, where Mike Spring filmed her simmering in preparation for a sail to Southend and back. After embarking what seems to be very few passengers, Medway Queen leaves the pier, turns and steams downriver. The church on the hill is a familiar landmark today as the Medway Heritage Centre, but the green fields on the left bank are now mainly industrial units. At Upnor, Medway Queen passes Arethusa, formerly one of the famous flying pea barks, the Peking, dating from 1911. Medway Queen was the only new ship built for the new Medway Steam Packet Company, and apart from her wartime heroics and a few special sailings such as her appearances at the Spithead Reviews, this was her only sailing area, from Strood to Southend, and then out into the estuary to Clacton, Herne Bay, or perhaps Margate. As we approach Southend, we see the General Steam Navigation Company's Royal Sovereign leaving the pier. We leave Southend in glorious evening light, and we pass the Arethusa at sunset. She survives at the South Street Seaport Museum in New York, restored as the Peking once more. Now we are back at Southend Pier, where Owen Connolly filmed Medway Queen approaching, this time with a very good passenger load aboard. And it's easy to see that although she was built in 1924 by Ailsa's of Troon as a typical example of that company's work, she had been very little altered, and she retained her classic lines and her lack of deck shelters to the end. As the ropes are drawn ashore and her gangways are put out, we can see that the sponsons have been roped off. This was done only when nearing pier calls, and some say that it was due to slight stability problems, which are documented in her Department of Transport files. We can also see that she retained an open bridge to the end, although a wheelhouse was fitted in wartime. We join her once more at Strood Pier. Whilst awaiting departure, we get a chance to look at her wooden decks, her wooden deck seats, and her captain's cabin, as well as her compound diagonal engine, which was also a product of her builders, Ailsa's. Ken Williams had boarded her to film the Medway sailing barge match on the 17th of June 1963, the last match in which the large bowsprit barges had taken part, and here we see Dreadnought overtaking one of the favourites, Sarah. This event can still be seen from the decks of a 1924 built paddle steamer, the Paddle Steamer Preservation Society's Kingswear Castle. On this occasion, GSN's Royal Sovereign was acting as committee boat for the day. Here we see Veronica, Sarah and Dreadnought approaching the buoy which they had to round. And we now get a glimpse of Medway Queen's engines, this time in motion. Here we see Memory, a staysail barge, passing Royal Sovereign. And now we get a close-up of the fast Veronica. We were rather too close, in fact, and had to make a quick manoeuvre to avoid her bowsprit. It didn't seem to matter, however. She was eventually the winner. And in second place came Sirdar. We now join Medway Queen approaching Southend with sponsons roped off. Filmed by Peter Stocker. Although the colour has faded, it is still easy to feel the atmosphere as the ship cruises to Clacton. As you can see, whilst at sea, passengers were allowed on the sponsons. And at the bow, we can see the wheel which controlled the bow rudder. On the approach to Clacton, through the shallow Swin Spitway, the depth of water has to be carefully checked. Peter left the ship for time ashore at Clacton, but filmed her leaving the pier. Here she is returning to pick him up for the cruise back to Southend. It all came to an end on Sunday the 8th of September 1963, and Peter Stocker made the trip from Southend to Herne Bay and back for the last time. Here we see the packed ship approaching Southend Pier for her penultimate call. Here she is, leaving Herne Bay for the very last time. The pierhead still survives in good condition, but isolated from the shore. At Southend, with the gangway ashore, Medway Queen whistles before steaming into evening light. Medway Queen still survives, owned by the Medway Queen Preservation Society and currently berthed at Damhead Creek. I wonder if one day a restored Medway Queen will call again at a restored Herne Bay Pier. I, for one, Very much hope so.